Now, if you're in your 30s and you kind of feel like, I should have a lot more things than I do right now. I should own this, I should own that, but right now, I don't have anything. And you might feel that way, but the truth is, a lot of the times, you're probably better off not owning the things you think you actually need. About 2 years ago, I owned a house, I owned a car, an iPhone 14, I think it was, and on top of that, I had over 20 plus pairs of sneakers. I had just about everything that I actually thought I needed. Today, I'm married and I have just about no house, no car, no more iPhone 14. I have like an iPhone SE now, and I have basically like less shoes than I had back then. And you might be thinking, Tommy, you probably got married and you lost everything. The answer is no. I just lived in Puerto Rico, bought all that stuff, moved to DR, sold all that stuff. Now, there's this type of thing that happens when you don't have things where you kind of feel like I have to buy these things again because I actually want them. But the truth is, you don't. So in this video, I'm gonna kind of talk about when is it the right time to actually buy things and when is it the right time to actually sell things and just basically start really this whole process of not really owning much stuff, okay? It's very important because when you own things, it's not like it's free. It costs money, it costs time, and it also takes up space and energy. And a lot of the times, not owning something is actually a huge benefit depending on how you actually view it. Do me a favor, by the way, and smash the like button and let's get right into it. Now, the very first thing, guys, that I don't own anymore is a house. And when you're in your 30s, for example, you might feel like, you know what I need? A house. I need a house because it's just the next logical step. But the truth is, a house can be one of the worst investments you can make in your life if you do it the wrong way. And you buy it when you actually don't need it. So, what I learned about owning a house is, as a single man, I had no business having a house with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and like a 4-car garage. By the way, it wasn't like a mansion. It cost like around $130K in Puerto Rico. But the whole idea is you don't buy a house unless you need a house. And that's actually a positive thing. The problem with renting is renting long term. But short-term renting is actually a positive because you get to keep more money in your pocket. Now, here's how you know you actually don't need to buy a house and some terrible ideas and some terrible examples, okay? Number one is going to be, I'm older, so I need a house. Buying a house is not an age thing. Number two, my parents or my friends think I should buy a house, or my friends bought a house, or I don't want to pay rent. Again, rent short-term is more positive than actually owning something you cannot afford. These reasons are not valid reasons to actually own a home, or just saying, I feel like owning a home is the right move right now. It's not really an emotional decision to spend $200 or $300 or $400 when you actually don't need something. Not buying that if you don't need it is actually way more positive. So once you review those reasons, obviously my first house purchase, being single, being just like a normal guy, was a terrible decision. I should have just rented a lot longer. Now, here are some reasons to why now I'm considering actually buying a home or building a home. Number one, I'm married. My wife wants a house. I want to build a family. And on top of that, well, grow a family. And on top of that, I'm also ready to start setting in and just basically growing some roots and being in one place and one location. Now, are these reasons like my friends have a house? No. Is it I feel like I need a house? No. Is it my parents think I should have a house? Is it because I'm older? The answer is none of those things actually matter. What matters is you actually need a house and you actually see the reasons to buy a house. Now, while you're actually waiting to actually need to buy a house, what are you supposed to be doing? The answer is preparing. And by the way, one of the biggest reasons to me actually needing a house and being able to buy a house is I actually have the cash and I'm prepared to buy a home. So my recommendation is, while you don't have a house, prepare to buy a home the right way. Now that means buy a home on a 15-year mortgage. Save up at least a 10% down payment. Be debt-free and have at least a 3 to 6 month emergency account. And make sure when you buy this home that the mortgage, the insurance, the taxes, the maintenance, all those things included, are no more than 33% of your monthly income. Now, you know what that does? It gives you a lot of liberty to actually pay this house off faster, so the house isn't such a big portion of your income. And because you have no debt and you have an emergency fund, well, if something happens to your job, you don't feel like, well, your life is ruined because you can't make mortgage payments. That's the whole idea. So when you don't have a home and you don't need a home, don't spend time just doing nothing. Spend time preparing for when the time comes that you actually need a home. Now, by the way, is the only time to actually buy a home when you're married and you want to grow a family? The answer is no. But I would recommend that if I could go back and say I actually needed a home or whatever, and I was ready to set roots and all this other stuff, I would just buy like a studio apartment or like a 2-bedroom apartment and just basically called it a day, because you don't really need a house that much, like all that space and all this furniture you need to buy for this stuff. It can be very expensive. So yeah, that's it. If you feel like you need a house, don't just judge it based on that. Now, number 2 is, let's talk about me and Ashley not owning a car. That's actually a lie. I actually own a car. I inherited it by basically getting married, because my wife came with a car that she actually owned, which is awesome. It's actually a Toyota Corolla 2017. I have a full video on that coming out pretty soon. But the whole idea is, for the biggest, I can't even talk about this like without just having like a crazy reaction, but the average person is spending a little bit over $1,000 on a car. Because to finance the car, they spend between $500 to $700. And we take a look at, for example, the gas, the insurance, the maintenance, the car washes, and all the things that go into actually owning a car, it might be over $1,000. And they do this for about 60 months, about 5 years. Now, do you know how much 1,000 times 60 actually is? Because 60 months, 60 payments is about 5 years. It's about $60,000 you actually spend in those 5 years. So my recommendation would be this one, all right? If you don't need a car, that's such a positive thing. Do not be an idiot. Don't buy things you don't need just to actually have them. If you live in a place like New York City, or for example, I don't know any more states that you don't need cars, honestly, for the most part. But if you live in a place where you don't need a car, that's a positive thing, all right? It's an expense you don't have to spend money on. There was a portion of my days, of my time, where for 5 years, I didn't need a car. For 5 years, I needed a car. And there was also a time where I needed a car and I didn't buy it. Big mistake, okay? And here's why I didn't buy a car. I had this whole idea that cheap cars did not exist. That's not true. You can buy cheap cars out there for like less than $5,000, less than $4,000. I thought that cheaper cars were not going to be reliable and all this other stuff, but the truth is they're just as reliable if you know what you're actually buying. So here's my advice for you. If you need a car, buy a car, but buy a cheap car that's reliable, affordable, and you can pay cash for it. And that's not going to take a bunch of money out of your pocket by being a gas hog, all right? And by the way, for that brief period where I didn't need a car, you know what I did? I just didn't own a car. But I had friends that literally bought cars, not needing it, had it parked way more than they had it, but they still needed to pay insurance for it, all right? And still do a whole bunch of maintenance on it, okay? So that's the idea. Be very careful with buying things you don't need that come with ongoing costs, whether you use it or you don't use it, all right? Now, lastly, guys, is going to be, I no longer have an expensive phone. I don't own an expensive phone, but I just recently bought one for $333, a Galaxy S23. First time in 8 years I'm going to actually have Android again. I bought it because I just wanted to customize it a little bit more to help me a little bit more with screen time, and I also wanted to try something new that wasn't like iPhone. This video is not about which one's better. I honestly don't care. I just want to try it out, and I can afford to pay for it in cash. So when you're buying a phone, buy a phone thinking about like the cost. All right, that's very important. And I don't own as much shoes as I had before. Now, you know how I feel about that? I feel liberated. I feel like most people out there, their closets are like stores. They have a bunch of clothes, even still with the label on it. It's ridiculous. I have right now this iPhone SE 3rd generation. It liberates me from a lot of things. It's a smaller phone. There's a lot of things I'm not doing on this phone, like watching Netflix or watching a lot of dumb things. So it helps me out a lot. Now guys, the whole point of this video is not to say I don't have a house, I don't have a car, I don't have a phone, I don't have a lot of shoes anymore. The answer is you really want to judge things by needs. And if you don't need something, don't buy it. Even if you're in your 30s, even if you feel like you're getting older, the answer is don't let peer pressure, don't let biases, don't let other people's advices, don't let society tell you that you should have something when you absolutely don't need it. One big thing for me is like shoes. I had over 20 something pairs of shoes. Today I still have a lot of shoes, but slowly but surely I'm getting rid of shoes. I'm getting rid of clothes. You know why? Because I want to own things, use them until its life is gone, and then basically replace them. And I feel like that's a lot better than having like so many shoes and not even wearing them in the first place, all right? So thanks for watching this video. I hope it actually helps you with something. And as always, Long Term Team officially out. Subscribe to the channel, by the way.